just wanted to check up on you. I just went from whispering to softly talking because I'm an idiot. And I forgot that I don't whisper. Sorry. But yeah, just wanted to know how you are. So how have you been? Oh. But that's a lot, isn't it? No matter how you look at it. I, for one, think you're doing brilliantly. Yeah, you're doing the best that you can. And sometimes that's all we can ask of ourselves and of others. Maybe I can read a little something to you that I wrote. It's one of the newer things. Because I get distracted and I don't finish the stories that I already have out. Because it's much more exciting to start something new. So that at least it doesn't fester in my head, you know. So maybe I can take some of that burden off you. You might hear some more background noises on my end. Because it's daytime. Because I've been very tired lately. For the past couple of months actually. So I'm sleeping at night. Which is what I'm supposed to be doing. But yeah. Sometimes it sucks. Because I would rather do stuff at night. It's a whole thing. But I won't burden you with that. Today, as you could have guessed from the outro of the last video, this is a story. It's going to be a full story, so it's going to have multiple chapters. I will put it in a playlist of its own, so that you can keep track. I have to do that with the other stories too, by the way. But this one is a Verso coupled with an OC, with an original character. So it's from the game Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I'm nearly finished with my first playthrough. It's such a good game, but also heart-wrenching. And this story, it's the first book in a series of 3. And I mean book loosely, I mean on Wattpad, an archive of our own. I started it on the 7th of August, so it's not that long ago now. It's still ongoing, because I only just started it. And every part of the story is planned, meaning every scene is intentional. I originally wanted, or had some ideas for drabbles, or imagines, or whatever you want to call them, just some one-shots. But I liked the OC so much that she became her own full-fledged character in my head. And then I felt like she deserves her own story. So this is the first book, and it's called Beyond the Worlds. Let me first get you the summary. Loss. They all knew that would be a word they would grow accustomed to once they left the safety of the dome around Lumiere. What they didn't expect was how soon they would soon become acquainted. After losing Gustav, a new man joins Expedition 33. Verso is a handsome, albeit curious man who seems to hide much about himself. The only one who doesn't seem overly bothered by his behavior is Chloé, a 33-year-old woman who mostly keeps to herself. Her companions know very little about her until Verso comes along. Somehow, he manages to drag her out from behind her thick walls. Still, both of them carry secrets with them that might not lead them to the conclusion they each long for. I will put a spoiler warning up before this, by the way, just so you know there are going to be spoilers for the main story. Not necessarily, I think, in this chapter, but there might be. If there are, I will put it up on screen if I remember. But I have to put subtitles anyway, so I will come across this and hopefully remember to check the spoilers. Someone is sawing. Loudly. It's an electric saw. Here on my end, by the way. This is what happens when you film during the day. I don't think you can hear it. I hope not, otherwise I have to record everything again. But no more distractions. Let's get started on chapter 1. Dernière danse. Yes, it's an Intila song. Gloom and doom. Those two words encapsulated the feelings of the last members of Expedition 33 pretty accurately. Like everyone suffering a major loss, they should have been given the time to grieve the loss of their dear friend. Gustav was more than just another expeditioner. He was the one who had given everyone back at Lumiere hope with his Lumina converter. It had been a beacon of light amongst the grim backdrop of despair that was their world. The dome managed to keep everyone inside safe. The Lumina converter gave hope to those who dared to travel beyond its borders. And now, he was gone. That small ray of hope had been torn from them, ruthlessly slaughtered by the man with the scar, not to be confused with the one currently traveling with them, the handsome stranger that had managed to time his interference of the man's assault perfectly. A little too perfectly, if you ask Lune. She didn't hide the fact she didn't trust him, bombarding him with questions whenever she got a chance to. A dark, all-enveloping darkness blanketed their camp those first few days. Taking time to grieve was not a luxury they could afford. Or was it? There was no one to tell them what to do or how to go about tackling the paintress. All they knew, all they could fixate on, was that it had to be done. There was no big plan, no grand design behind their expedition. The Disaster Expedition became a more fitting name by the day. Nevrons attacked them from all sides. No matter where they went, no matter where they looked, there was always an attack incoming. Some might call it a miracle they managed to make it this far. Still, they discovered flags left behind by prior expeditions, small symbols of hope amongst the death and despair that littered every inch of land they walked upon. One of the few constants around camp was the way CL tried to lift everybody's spirits, or the way Lune hyper-focused on collecting and ordering data. Maya became harder to reach after Gustav's death. Now more than ever, she could be found sitting on the edge of camp, sticking to herself. No one had to guess what she was going through. She wore a mask of anger which did a poor job of hiding the all-consuming pain within her. And then there was Chloé, the young woman with auburn hair and light green eyes. She was only a little bit taller than Maëlle despite being nearly twice the girl's age. Her body wasn't as lean as that of Shell or Lune's, but she had no trouble getting around even if she was panting a little bit harder than the others from time to time. As per usual, she sat in front of her tent, tinkering away with a piece of scrap she had found somewhere during their travels. Which wasn't noteworthy in and of itself. Chloé barely interacted with the others. The only sounds that came from her mouth were during battle, or brief interactions when Ciel tried to get her out of her shell. The three girls had quickly learned to accept the fact that that's who Chloé was. They had stopped trying to get her to interact more. They knew enough about her to trust her during battle, which stemmed from the fact she didn't shy away from answering their questions about her life unpressed. Which was all they were going to get from her, it seemed. Every time they had tried to make a move to get closer to her, they had been met with a wall thicker than the distance between them and the monolith. Chloé was open about herself, but Lune had noticed how everything she shared was factual. Every emotion that shone through her eyes quickly stomped out like a candle's flame that lacked enough air to grow. She didn't seem to appreciate her companions' company, so they had unanimously decided to leave her be. A memo that hadn't been passed on to Verso yet. Shell and Lune watched with their mouths wide open as he managed to stand and talk with Chloé for more than a few seconds in front of her tent. They saw the walls on her face go up, that guardedness she wore around all of them. And yet, he remained, still talking to her, without her reaching for her dagger. When he finally walked away, unscathed somehow, and joined them at the campfire, Verso was forced to deal with their shock next. His smile fell a little when he took in their expressions. What? Did I grow another head on accident? I swear the timing is rubbish. Lune fixed her face into a scowl. How did you do that? Did what? A flicker of amusement in his eyes gave him an almost boyish look, an expression that didn't match well with his battle-worn clothes nor the scar on his face. You do look like you saw a ghost. Realizing that might be too soon, he quickly added, or something else horrifying. Seriously, what's wrong? We want to know how you did that, Luna repeated with a more pointed look this time. A frown crossed Verso's face. Do what? Sit here and make you both gape at me like startled deer? He shrugged, using his stick to poke the fire. Talent, I guess. The campfire crackled between them as the two women tried to come to terms with what they had witnessed. Ciel leaned in, her lower arms resting on her knees. No, not that. We want to know how you managed to speak to Chloé. She narrowed her eyes. There was no real heat behind them. The corners of her mouth trembled as she struggled to keep her smirk down. Did you give her a sedative during dinner? A slow, incredulous blink later, and Verso let out a snort of laughter. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what I did. I used my secret herbalist skills to get her to speak. He gestured behind him towards Chloé's tent. Or maybe I used something called communication skills. It's that thing where you have a conversation with questions that make sense and answers follow. You should try it sometimes. Lune's lips pulled back into a thin line. That is not what we're talking about. Her voice could have got eyes. She sat up straighter, regarding him with suspicion. What Lune means is that none of us has ever been able to sit close to Chloé, or do battle near her, or go anywhere near her for that matter, Shell explained. Watching his growing confusion, she added, She made that very clear to all of us before we even left Lumiere. Lune eyed him suspiciously. That begs the question how you were allowed to stand so close to her during your conversation. Her eyes narrowed further. And how you were able to have a conversation with her at all. Most she says to us are short answers to questions we ask. Yet it looked like she was asking you something in return. Ciel leaned in further. His smirk faded like snow in the sun. For a few seconds he looked genuinely thrown, as if he realized he had stepped on a tripwire no one warned him about. Hold on, you're telling me she doesn't let people near her? He threw a glance back over his shoulder at her tent. There was no sign of her anymore. The flap of her tent was closed, which probably meant she was inside, and most importantly, out of earshot. He lowered his voice when he turned his head back towards the other women. I just walked up to her? Didn't think twice about it. His eyebrows drew together as he let this new tidbit of information settle into his mind. Was there a before? I mean, back in Lumiere. There must have been someone she was close to. There was no before, Lune said without skipping a beat. Her shoulders went down when she noticed the genuine confusion on his face. She grabbed a notebook, skipping some pages to get to the information she was looking for. She says she's from the lower city of Lumiere, grew up without her parents, found her own way around town, did some odd jobs here and there. She closed her notebook with a soft thud. And that's all we know. Ciel didn't seem as bothered with the lack of information on their companion as Lune. In fact, they might as well have been discussing the weather. The only sense of interest appeared when she spoke up again. She's been like this in Lumiere too, from what I could tell the few times I ran into her. Last week when Gustav... The lump in her throat returned all at once. She smiled through it, pushing it down. Even Gustav wasn't allowed to come anywhere near her. She nearly got off his hand once when he accidentally put it on her shoulder to comfort her. Verso's fingers twitched. He looked down at his hand, which he now realized had come dangerously close to Chloé during their talk. He moved all his fingers one by one, almost as if trying to convince himself they were still attached to him. His next words were murmured, talking to himself more than to them. Then why didn't she stab me? He shook his head sharply before his eyes found shells again. No, scratch that. Why does it matter? I stood with her, we spoke, she was evasive, end of story. Still, it doesn't go unnoticed by the other two that his gaze falls back on Chloé's stand with the sort of tender look you give a trapped bird. Shell watched on with poorly hidden amusement while Luna was busy scribbling away in her notebook. She's evasive with everyone, she murmured under her breath. Those words were mostly meant for herself in her notes, but it was Verso who added them to the puzzle that had become Chloé. I'm sorry, my cat joins. Do you want a purr? That's all the purring you get, apparently. Where was I? Shell quickly spoke up when Verso's eyebrows drew together in a frown. What Luna is trying to say is that I meant what I said, Luna said, looking up from her notebook. She likes to keep to herself. She tolerates us around her at best. Yet she risks her life for us like it's nothing, jumping in front of us when Nephons are about to land a deadly blow. Then, when the battle is over, she goes back to mostly ignoring our very existence. I don't get her. A dry, humorless chuckle escaped Verso's chest before he could help himself. Join the club. He dragged a hand down his face. A heavy sigh left his lips. Look, I don't get her either. Maybe she's got a death wish wrapped in a steel plating. Maybe she just... His voice trailed off as he glanced back at her tent again. His voice then softens. Things keeping people at arm's length keeps them alive. Keeps her alive. Those words come out barely above a murmur. Only Shell notices the flicker of recognition that passes through his eyes like lightning, too quick to capture, yet leaving something in its wake. He shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. Or maybe she doesn't like any of us enough to care if we stay or go. Either way, worry less about why I didn't get stabbed and more about why you aren't allowed to whoop while you have known her much longer than I have. Of course, this resulted in an argument between Luna and Verso. The former was clearly annoyed, while the latter was mostly amused and a little taken aback by the venom in her words. A few more minutes passed by, with their words being the only sounds that filled the cool night air. Shell stayed with them out of sheer amusement. Neither of them noticed Mael's slumped-over figure sitting on the edge of the cliff on which they had set up camp. Her figure was as much an expected part of the backdrop as the monolith. The only one who noticed was a slightly taller figure that came to sit beside her in the dead of night. The stars were their only witness as they shared a moment of quiet companionship. Thank you. I know this is a short video. I have a bit more time for those than the longer ones. Trying something out with the characters in the background as well. Hope you like that. But yeah, we are going to continue. I think I might do chapter 2 this week. Maybe at the start of the next one, and then we're going back to Baldur's Gate or Dragon Age for a little bit. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, an amazing week, and an amazing life. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope it relaxed you. Have a very good evening. Good night.